For the first time in modern history, French nuclear-capable fighter jets have landed at a German airbase as part of a new strategic partnership. That may sound like a routine military exercise, but it represents one of the biggest shifts in European nuclear policy since the Cold War. France is no longer keeping its nuclear deterrent almost entirely national. Instead, Paris is actively extending its nuclear umbrella across Europe, and Germany has become its most important partner. As the United States signals that Europe should shoulder more of its own defense, France and Germany are quietly building a new nuclear architecture that could reshape the continent's security for decades. To understand why this matters, we need to understand Europe's current nuclear landscape. For decades, European nuclear deterrence has relied primarily on the United States through NATO's nuclear sharing arrangement. Under this system, American nuclear weapons are stationed in several European countries, including Germany, Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, and Turkey. Although those countries host the weapons and operate aircraft capable of delivering them, the United States retains full control over any decision to use them. France has always followed a different path. Unlike most NATO members, France maintains an independent nuclear force, completely under French political control. Paris has traditionally viewed that independence as central to its national sovereignty. But Europe has changed dramatically over the past few years. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, uncertainty over long-term American security commitments, and rising geopolitical competition have pushed European governments to rethink their defense strategy. In March, France launched what President Emmanuel Macron calls forward deterrence. The concept is simple but significant. France will maintain complete control over its nuclear weapons while expanding strategic cooperation with European allies through joint planning, military exercises, and closer operational coordination. Germany immediately became one of the first countries to join. Now, those plans are becoming reality. This partnership is not replacing NATO. Both Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz have repeatedly emphasized that point. Instead, they describe it as strengthening Europe's ability to defend itself if circumstances change. That distinction matters. For decades, European security depended overwhelmingly on American military power. Washington provided conventional forces, missile defense, intelligence, and most importantly, the ultimate nuclear guarantee. However, growing debate inside the United States about reducing overseas military commitments has encouraged European governments to prepare for greater strategic responsibility. France already possesses approximately 290 nuclear warheads, delivered primarily by ballistic missile submarines and Rafale fighter aircraft. Unlike Britain's nuclear deterrent, which remains closely integrated with the United States, France's nuclear force operates independently. That independence gives Paris unique flexibility. By extending strategic cooperation to Germany and other European countries, France hopes to strengthen European deterrence without requiring new nations to develop their own nuclear weapons. 9 countries have already joined the initiative, stretching from Norway in Northern Europe to Greece in the southeast. That growing participation shows many governments see value in adding another layer of nuclear reassurance. But France is offering something carefully designed, not shared ownership, but shared responsibility. One of the biggest misconceptions about this agreement is that Germany will somehow gain access to French nuclear weapons. That is not happening. President Macron has made one point absolutely clear. All decisions regarding France's nuclear arsenal will remain exclusively in Paris. Only the French president can authorize the use of French nuclear weapons. So what exactly changes? Germany and other participating countries will contribute conventional military support. That could include providing air bases, fighter escorts, logistics, refueling aircraft, communications, intelligence, and participation in nuclear-related military exercises. We already see the first examples. French nuclear-capable Rafale fighters recently visited Germany's Nervenich airbase for the first time. French Rafales also conducted aerial refueling alongside German Eurofighters before the meeting. Germany will now participate in France's Poker nuclear exercise later this year using conventional forces. These activities build operational familiarity. Military cooperation depends on trust, developed through repeated exercises long before any real crisis emerges. France is therefore gradually integrating European allies into its strategic planning while carefully preserving complete national control over its nuclear arsenal. That balance makes the initiative politically acceptable for both Paris and Berlin. Yet this partnership is about far more than military exercises. It signals a profound shift in Europe's geopolitical thinking. The timing of this agreement tells us almost everything. Europe is entering an era where security assumptions that lasted for decades no longer appear guaranteed. Russia continues expanding military production. Arms control agreements that once limited nuclear competition have steadily weakened. Meanwhile, strategic competition between the United States and China increasingly dominates Washington's foreign policy priorities. European leaders understand this reality. Even if the United States remains fully committed to NATO today, future American administrations could demand Europe shoulder even greater defense responsibilities. Rather than waiting for that possibility, France appears determined to prepare now. The agreement also carries political significance. Only months earlier, France and Germany faced tensions following the collapse of their joint Future Combat Air System project. That dispute raised questions about whether Europe's two largest powers could continue leading continental defense integration. Instead of allowing disagreements to dominate the relationship, both governments have chosen to deepen cooperation in perhaps the most sensitive area of national security. That decision sends an important message. Despite industrial disagreements, Paris and Berlin still believe European security requires closer strategic coordination. Nuclear cooperation now appears to be becoming one of the pillars supporting that broader vision. For Europe, this initiative strengthens strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy simply means increasing Europe's ability to defend itself without depending entirely on outside powers. While NATO remains central to European security, France's forward deterrence creates an additional layer of reassurance for participating countries. For the United States, the development presents both opportunities and challenges. Washington has long encouraged Europe to invest more heavily in its own defense. At the same time, American policymakers will closely monitor any new security arrangements to ensure they reinforce rather than weaken NATO unity. For Russia, the message is unmistakable. Rather than dividing Europe, Moscow's actions have encouraged deeper military cooperation among European states, including unprecedented nuclear coordination between France and Germany. The world is moving toward a more multipolar security system, where allies build overlapping networks instead of relying exclusively on a single superpower. For generations, Europe's nuclear shield rested primarily across the Atlantic. Today, France and Germany are quietly building a second pillar beneath it, and history may remember this moment as the beginning of Europe's most significant nuclear transformation since the Cold War.